Hello, hello, hello. This is Dominey Drew. How is everyone out there? I hope you're all doing great. Welcome to this week's episode. I've got a great one for you. Very excited that you could join me, whether you're driving home from work or you're chilling at home. I encourage you to listen anytime you like, to call in, give me your comments. Feel free to reach out to me on Twitter as we're going if you'd like. People send me direct messages a lot, but feel free to post it publicly so everyone can see your question. On Twitter, I am at Dominey Drew. That's DOMINEY DREW. And I'm the same on Instagram at Dominey Drew. You can find me either place. You can also, of course, look me up on my website. I'm at domineydrew.com. I like to keep everything very simple, as you can see. And this is my little spot. I get to sit here for a while and chat with you guys about my favorite topic in the world, which is personal development work as it relates to sex and relationships and dating and all of that really good shit. So a little bit about me. I run a business where I help single men attract life partners through personal and relationship coaching. And I work primarily with single men, but I also work with men in relationships, and sometimes I work with women as well. And I do that through, I've done this work myself for over 15 years, actually, and I'm an absolute poster child for its success. My life is completely different than it was when I started. My daily outlook is completely different. My ability to function in the world is totally different, and really, it's shaped me a huge amount. I used to get in my way all the time. I couldn't, I didn't have good things happening in my life. I couldn't form solid, relationships that were nourishing to me. That, I was unhealthy. I hated my body. I had, shit for self-confidence. And that was really a very powerful time. I was suicidal when I was young. And really struggled with my place in the world, and I found this work that I now teach, and it just absolutely turned my life around. I mean, I have stellar self-confidence. I've really gone through that process of falling in love with myself, which is a very powerful process to go to, and ultimately, arguably, kind of what we're all here for, to learn how to love yourself as you are, and then as you do, you shift, you change. And I primarily do that, this process that I'm talking about is really consists of, you come in with X problem and you look back into your life for where you've formed unconscious beliefs at a young age. Okay, you had something happen to you when you're young. We talked about this last week in a lot of detail, and you draw conclusions from it. Children generalize their experience. So when something happens to you as a kid, you go, oh, okay, well, this must be the way the world is. Don't even realize that you are deciding that, but you do in fact decide it, and then off you go. And so then from that point, you've internalized that so very deeply that you can't even find it in your later life. So you're like, that's weird. Why do I keep attracting crazy women? Okay, well, there's some reason. That's not just an accidental thing. It's not the women. It's you. It's always about you. That's really the first thing to come to grips with, because truly that's the only part that you can take control over, that you can take responsibility for and also take credit for. So, I have guys sort of come to me and they're like, oh, I'm single, I'm dating, but I think it's just, it's my area, or it's, women these days or something. And I go, because the fact of the matter is that as long as you are blaming the world around you, you're powerless to fix the problem. I mean, that's just a fact, right? You cannot possibly do anything about an issue that you don't believe, that you don't take responsibility for. So, the line that I came up with that I really like is that self-responsibility is the key to self-mastery. And that's absolutely, absolutely true. It really is. So, so basically what I help these guys do is we go back, we find out, what is happening unconsciously under the surface that's kind of running the show, and we bring it to consciousness. And honestly, as soon as you become aware of it, things start shifting immediately. Because the fact of the matter is, if you knew what you were doing wrong that was making you unhappy, you'd fix it, right? So if you don't, that either means that you don't know what you're doing wrong, or you don't want to fix it. You're not unhappy. Okay, and that's really leading us into our topic today, which is going to be around drama. This is how to ditch the drama queen. And I say queen because I'm mostly talking to men, but this is absolutely just as true for women. Same as, everything else that I teach. So really bringing it into that space of self-responsibility is an important place to start. Something sort of attracts you to those crazy women, right? So let's talk about drama. First of all, how do you tell what is drama and what isn't? Okay, like what exactly are we talking about here? Because, normal relationships have fights, normal relationships can have repeating fights, and that's not necessarily bad. In fact, I'm going to do an episode, I just had an idea earlier today, do an episode on how to fight well. Fight. Fighting's not bad. Don't be afraid of fighting. Don't be afraid of conflict. It's part of life. It does not need to be a huge part of life, necessarily. But avoiding it's not any better than over-engaging in it. Okay, both are defensive in nature. In other words, if you are in drama all the time and you can't kind of exist without it, that's a defense, an emotional defense. Let's keep the excitement going to see, usually to avoid what's going on inside, right? We love to distract ourselves and escape. Or you're avoiding it entirely, that's also not good, okay? Whether you're refusing to let it in at all or you're, kind of obsessed with it, either one is a defense. Because if you didn't need to defend yourself against fighting, you would just let fights come up, you'd go through them, and then you'd let them go, okay? That's always the shape of a scenario when you're undefended. So if you, somebody comes up to you and, I don't know, a friend tells you that they hated something that you did last summer, but that's not something that you're insecure about. Let's say somebody comes up and says, hey, listen, like, I hated what you did at the weekend, this party last weekend, it made me feel da-da-da-da. If I don't have an issue around that, in other words, if there's no, I'm not worried about losing friends, or I'm not worried about being criticized, or those aren't my particular issues in life, you'll have other ones, then I'll just go, oh my God, I'm so sorry that happened, here was my perspective, or here's where I was coming from, or you're right, there was no excuse, and I apologize, da-da-da, and then you let it go. And there's no energy around it. Can you see that? It's just sort of, okay, I'm sorry I made you feel that way, I won't do that again. Or, not that you have to even say that you're wrong if you don't think you were, I totally understand what you're saying there, here's my perspective, maybe you misunderstood, whatever, but see how everything's sort of very calm, right? Whereas if somebody comes to me and says, I hate what you did last weekend, and I go, oh my God, like, you're always criticizing me, and, I can't do anything right. And you see how those are like, it's not quite related? Like, it's tangentially related, but it's not really about that, what happened at the party. That's how you know that it's my issue. Of course, it's a little bit, it's always a little bit both, because it's happening in both people's life experiences. But from my perspective, it's like, okay, that's on me, okay? Which means I've got issues around, if my response was, God, you're always criticizing, I can't do anything right, then you've got some self-worth issues, right? You look inside and see, okay, well, why can't I do anything right? Like, is there nothing that I can do right? Have I never done anything right in my entire life? Because there's always exaggerations. That's what the, avoidance or obsession kind of goes. You're always pushing it one direction or another if there's defense, okay? Or freezing so that you don't feel anything. But when there's no defense, you just sort of deal with the situation that's in front of you, and you're not going anywhere else with it. Okay, you're not bringing in other issues, or fighting about things that aren't the problem. aren't really what's right in front of you. I mean, that's huge. People do that all the time. So that's bringing us back to drama again. So how can you tell what's drama and what isn't? Okay? Fighting healthily is not drama. If you have a conflict come up in your relationship and you deal with it in a healthy way and you stay engaged and you do what you need to do and what the other person needs you to do through it, and then it goes away. You resolve it and it's done. Okay? That is healthy. Okay? There's no problem with that. Now, if it's drama, first of all, it's going to cause you a lot of stress. Okay? That's the first sign of drama. If you are perpetually stressed in a relationship, you got drama. Big time. Okay? Again, I'm not saying that a healthy relationship won't have conflict or fights or stress. But if it's perpetual stress, okay, it feels a little bit different in your system. One, you're just like, you're worried, like, oh, we had this fight, and it really does bother me that he, I don't know, whatever, she spends money that I don't, I'm not comfortable with, whatever the issues that you're fighting about. It's really, it's different. It's a different feeling. That feeling is sort of like, yeah, I'm sad and worried and concerned about that. Stress is like you're waiting for the other shoe to drop. Okay, you're always you're at a constant level of stress, right? Even when things are good, you're like worried that they're not going to be soon. Okay, so that's one sign that it's stress and not that it's drama and not just healthy fighting. Okay, so there is kind of a perpetualness to it. Okay, the second thing is having the same argument repeatedly. Okay, another way of saying the same thing. If you're always fighting about the same shit, right? Or she's she's like always bringing up the same things, and the fights don't go anywhere. Okay, so causing you stress is the first one. Having the same argument repeatedly, and then again another related one. Nothing significant shifts or moves or develops. Okay, so the problems never get solved. That's how you know it's not a normal fight. Okay, a normal fight, even if it doesn't get resolved right then, you've moved forward. You're at a different place at the end than you are at the beginning. Okay? And if you're not, then you're having a circular argument and there's no way out at all. Okay? So I'm emphasizing that because I really want you to understand that if you're not moving anywhere in your arguments, you'll just keep fighting about the same shit forever. Okay? You will be having those same arguments and same, emotional outbursts or stress or whatever you're dealing with in 5, 10, and 25 years. Okay? There is nothing. It is running on a like a rat wheel, like one of those little gerbil wheels. And it just flat out doesn't move. It can't because what's actually happening is that you're fighting about something that's not really the point. And as long as you're fighting about something that's not really the point, you're not getting the fight out that needs to happen, which is about the point. But a lot of people do this, and often they do it because they don't really know what the point is. Or they just don't want to admit it. That's also very common. So, she's waiting for you to pick her up for, this family event that, her family event that you're going to as a guest, and you're late, and she starts going on and on about you, for how you're always late. Like, that may not be about you being late. Okay? It may be bringing up issues for her around, she's concerned that you don't support her family or you don't like her family, or she's worried that, her family's not going to like you, or she's worried that she thinks you're a constant disappointment and, can you, this lateness sort of represents something else. Like, oh, God, I'm always disappointed in you. Here you are late, see? And she's proving herself right. Right? Most humans are going around the world proving themselves right. Okay, that's ultimately the result of having these underlying insecurities, is that we go out into the world and we look for situations that will prove us right, and then we feel attracted to those situations. Okay, we'll talk a little bit more about why you're attracted to drama, right? That's literally what I do. I work with attraction, okay? And I work with attraction with sex and relationships, but really I'm just working with attraction. Why do you pull something towards you? Why are you drawn to something? What is it about that thing that attracts you, right? Because attraction, and you've probably heard me say this before, is completely and utterly authentic, okay? You can't pretend it's there when it's not, and you can't pretend it's not there when it is, okay? It is, you may not understand it, you may not know why you're always attracted to crazy women, and that's where I come in, okay? I help you understand, how you're doing that and how to change it, okay? So I solve that problem, but really, this is the pattern that I see so much. Why are you attracted to what you're attracted to? You always date women who are not really going anywhere in life, or you always date women who are powerful and domineering, or you always date women who leave you, or who don't trust you, or who aren't trustworthy, or who don't communicate. And all of these are patterns, okay? And it's not bad, it's okay, right? Everybody's got them. Everybody has got them. And it's a totally fixable thing. So if you're in a pattern that's causing you pain, then you can do something about that, okay? The trick is just to understand what it is that's attracting you to that thing that's not working for you, okay? So we'll go into that a little bit in a minute. So back to how do you tell what's drama and what isn't. So if nothing significant shifts or moves or develops after you fight, problems never get solved. They just flare up and go back down. Okay? Another way you could tell that it's drama is that you notice that you're not growing in your relationship. Now, I'm saying relationship, but this can be friendship too, or family. This is in every type of relationship. I'm using relationship in like the literal term. If you pass me on the street, we have had a relationship of some kind. Maybe I saw you and smiled. Maybe I saw you and smiled and you didn't see me. Maybe you smiled at me and I didn't see you because I was on my phone. Maybe we didn't even notice each other, but that's some sort of, that's a relationship, right? So notice this, if you're a relationship with your sister or brother, with your friends, with potential mates, with romantic relationships, right? So if you notice, because again, these don't move, right? You're having the same argument over and over and over again. Your problems never get solved. They just flare up and go back down again, okay? So if you're experiencing all of that, then that's drama, okay? Because you're in that circular hamster wheel. I keep changing the animal. Rat, gerbil, hamster. It's going to be like a salamander wheel next. I'm getting excited about it. If you're on that hamster wheel, okay, you're not moving. You're not growing and developing as a person. You're sitting there dealing with the same old shit. Okay? So that's really important. You're going to keep dealing with the same shit. And here's the other thing, too. It's kind of a common misconception that people tend to think that if they keep doing the same thing over and over again, they'll get different results. That's crazy. That's that's literally that's crazy logic. Okay? Um, so people stay in these relationships with drama. They're like, oh, it's like this now, but like, it'll be fine, and or we'll work it out, or she's just stressed because of X, Y, and Z, or we had a hard time because X, Y, and Z happened, and it's, you know, people are who they are. Okay, so if you've had a great romantic relationship or a great relationship of any kind with this person, and then something happens, and they go through a period where they're in grief, they're mourning, or they're stressed, or they're working hard because they're finishing their degree, or whatever. Fine, but if it started this way and it's always been this way, or it started great and now it's been this way for quite some time, you need to look at whether or not you should be in that relationship. Okay? Do not assume it's going to change if you do nothing. Okay? That's crazy town. Do not assume that something will change if you do nothing. If you don't change anything, nothing changes. This is all about you. Okay? So you're not growing in the relationship. That's one way to tell that it's drama. Okay? You're always dealing with the same shit. That's the next one. Always dealing with the same shit. Okay? It kind of follows you like a little storm cloud in the in the cartoons when we were kids. Somebody be having a bad day, and they just, they're walking around like with a little storm cloud over there. It's always raining on them, but only right where they are. Okay? And this is the effect that it has, okay? And it affects you mentally and emotionally and physically. You're less healthy. This will eventually lead to health problems. Okay? If you're stressed 100% of the time, or even 50% of the time, it will eventually get physical. Okay? So be aware of that. It's not just like, oh, it's fine, but like when it's good, and she's really cute. Great. Is it worth your health declining? How good could the sex possibly be? And is it worth it? And that's what you're going to need to ask yourself. Okay. So always dealing with the same shit. Definitely drama. Another note. Don't confuse passion with drama. Okay? They're not the same thing. You could use the word drama because it's dramatic for both. But what I'm talking about is drama and sort of more the Urban Dictionary type of term. The sort of commonly used definition of like always dealing with shit, always fussing about something, always arguing or in spats or whatever. Whereas some people have relationships that have, big arguments and then big makeup, like big highs and big lows, and that's fine. If that's what you want, that's fine. That would be dramatic in another term, right? That's a dramatic relationship because of the sort of extremes one way or the other. Most people find that not to be able to, do not find that sustainable. Okay, most people can't make that work. But some people do. Okay, I've dated Latin men in the past who, we had that type of relationship. And that was what it was. And it wasn't, drama in the sense of what I'm talking about here, but there was drama to it. But there's still moving forward. Is there still moving forward? Okay? Are you still growing? Have you learned things about who you are now as opposed to a few years ago? That type of thing. Okay? And then the last one is that drama, you could tell it's drama because it creates strife, stress, and unhappiness. Okay? And doesn't solve any problems or move forward in the slightest. All right, so that's really the main way to identify that it's drama. Okay, drama creates strife, stress, and unhappiness. Okay, it doesn't solve any problems, you don't grow from it, and the relationship never moves forward. Okay, so that's how you know. So So once you do know that it's drama, okay, you know that's you're in something that's creating useless drama as opposed to you know handling conflicts in a healthy way and moving forward. I want to emphasize again that drama. This is not just about people that you're dating, okay, and it's not necessarily people that you're um, romantically interested in and not dating. Like that's very common too. Like in the dating process or when you've just met someone, there's could be all of this uncertainty and all of this drama, right? Around this. Okay, like when you're meeting people, like she's avoiding you, or you feel like you had a good time, but you can't nail down a time to meet. You're sending out texts. She doesn't text you unless you text her first, or she doesn't respond all the time, and you're uncertain whether or not she's into you, or she's always saying she's just busy. It's like drama. Okay, see how I'm always fussing. I'm in a constant state of uncertainty, and I'm not getting out of it. It's not like, oh, I didn't hear from you for a few days. I was uncertain whether or not you were still interested. And she goes, oh, no, I'm sorry. I was at a music festival and I was out of reception for 4 days and I forgot to tell you before I left. Okay. But that sort of perpetual, like, oh, I wonder if she's interested. Is she interested? She says she's interested, but I'm not getting all these things. And I'm going to do an episode on this in particular, how to tell whether or not she's into you pretty soon, because that's a really popular one. I find a lot of the men who come to me as clients, they're unable to read the signals. Okay, so they're not clear on whether or not she's into them. Okay, so we'll do an episode on that as well. But just so you're clear, like that could be drama here as well. Okay. So what's actually happening? Okay, so what creates drama, and why is it? What's the real problem here? Right? What's actually happening? And this may be a little difficult to digest, okay? But bear with me. The first thing that you have to understand is that something about you is drawn to that kind of relationship. Okay? You like it, basically. Some part of you likes it. Okay? And that can often be hard for people to hear because they go, no, there's definitely not. I definitely do not want, she's always freaking out about one thing or another, and it's awful, and I hate everything about it. There's nothing that I like about it. Okay. Well, some part of you enjoys it. Bam. Mic drop. Okay? How do I know? All right, you're like, nope, definitely not true. Fine. Look at your actions. Okay? Don't even take my word for it. Look at your situation. Okay? Watch your actions. You keep coming back to it. Right? You've had lots of chances to get out of it, to kick it to the curb, and you haven't. Okay? So you continue to be drawn back like a moth to the flame. Okay? And you may even still be thinking, no, I haven't had any chance to get out of it. But the thing is, every morning that you wake up, you get up and you decide to stay in the relationship by virtue of not leaving it. Every single day you choose to continue it. Okay? You may not make that choice consciously, that's the whole problem, but you stay, which means you choose that over leaving. Okay? So that's how you know that some part of you enjoys it. Okay? Now, that part that enjoys it may be unconscious. Okay? Consciously, of course, you may think you hate it and it's a pain in the ass and you wish it would stop, and that's because it's not serving you. You're right. That's what makes it drama, otherwise it would be fun. Okay? But something deep inside you keeps drawing you back. Right? So, This is where attraction comes in. Something about this type of relationship, okay, if you've had one before, if you have if you're resonating with what I'm talking about here, then something about you is drawn to that type of relationship. Could be a lot, could be all your relationships are like this, your romantic relationships, your friendships. Could be that you've only had one or two. Could be that you're in one now. Could be that most of your relationships are great, but a couple are like this. Some part of you is interested in this, okay? So why does that tend to be the case? Well, it could be a lot of things. I don't know, why exactly you're drawn to it, okay? But most people, I do know that it's very common for people to be drawn to uh, drama-oriented relationships because there's life force there. There's energy. How like some people will hate conflict and fighting, right? And some people love it and are drawn to it and will really jump into the fray. Okay? Those people tend to find a lot of life force in arguing, in fighting. When there's anger, it's like there's a lot of life force going through your system. You're like, you got energy, you're mad about this, and you're giving opinions about that, and then you da 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 da. Okay? So there's a lot going on as opposed to a time when you're like maybe meditating or being content, when there's a lot less life force. So by life force, I mean like literally life. There's more life in being angry. Okay, if you look at it in a certain way, there isn't really. That just seems that way because it's more powerful. So you keep coming back to this drama, and often it's because there's excitement, there's life force, there's something's going on. I could be at home by myself, not doing anything, but I'm with this chick fighting, which I don't enjoy, but at least I'm doing something. Okay, or it could be the way that your parents, what your parents modeled for you. Okay, maybe your mom was passive aggressive, and your dad was, would stonewall her, or was emotionally vacant, or was aggressive, or something like that. Okay. So it's possible that you learned that this is how relationships just are. Okay? So if that's the case, and there are ways to find out on your own what these are. Okay, and I'll go into that in a little while here. I'm going to give you an exercise that you can look at, that you can do yourself on your own, and really look at, what it is that's drawing you to these relationships. Okay, so once you've sort of accepted that there is something in you that's drawn to this, that some part of this is voluntary. Okay, that's very, very, very important, because again, while the extent to which you don't take responsibility for your life, it is to that extent that you are a victim. Okay? You can't solve something that's somebody else's fault. You just can't. But you can look at your life, even if it's pretty blatant that it's, looks like it's their fault. You can look at your life, what does this mean for me? What does this represent for me? Where could I have done better? Okay, that's how you improve yourself. That's the secret to everything right there. So the first thing you have to understand is that you're attracting this. Okay, some part of you is drawing this to you. You're attracting it. You like it. You want it on some level. Okay. The second thing that you need to understand when you're sort of in these relationships is that you are dealing not just with an emotional pattern or a unique situation. You are literally dealing with addiction. Okay? You're addicted. That's a situation that's happening. You're in this relationship that, is causing you all this stress, and you're in it anyway. That's an addiction. Okay? You literally need more to, even though you know it's not good for you, you keep going back for it. Okay? To kind of get that rush, to get that high. Okay? And, maybe they're, I've had guys that are attracted to crazy women, because they're really hot. Like, okay, that's great. So how much do you want to be with someone very hot? Is it enough that you are willing to spend your life, doing these things? Spending your life in drama, spending your life, fighting, unhappy, not moving forward, okay? And also, by the way, there's a lot of hot women that are not the slightest bit crazy. So please don't, that whole like ratio of hotness to crazy is a really unfortunate myth that's going around, okay? It is not accurate at all, okay? And you don't have to be with someone crazy to be with someone hot. And you don't need to be with someone crazy at all, okay? But if you're in one of these relationships, there really is this state of addiction, okay? Because you really think that you need it. You probably, if you haven't experienced it yourself, you probably had a friend who's been in an incredibly shitty relationship for just ages and ages and ages, right? So, they're always off and on. He's, talking about her constantly, fussing one way or the other. She's coming towards, she's going away. I love her, I hate her. It's like, oh God, it's just it's exhausting. So anyway, so what you have to understand is that people in those situations, you'll sort of just say to them, God, just cut it off or find someone else or whatever, and they keep going back to it, and that's the addiction. Okay, so even though all their friends are telling them it's a terrible idea. They're friends who have their best interest in mind, who they trust normally, and who have never not liked their girlfriends in the past, whatever. You may know this person who will just go against absolutely everything, and go back to these damaging relationships. So there really is an addiction element, okay, and that's really quite important because otherwise you can get really into self-blame. Like, God, I really should, I should leave her, I should do all these things. I think that, if you're addicted to heroin, you probably have thoughts like, maybe I should really get off heroin. But you can't that easily, right? Most of the time. I don't know, I've never been addicted to heroin. But I'm sure that's about how it works. So, so the addiction part is really important because unless you know that you're addicted, you think that you're right. You're like, yeah, I know that she's dumped me 13 times and I've lost 5 years of my life to this relationship and, whatever. But she's really changed and it's going to be better now and, da-da-da-da. It's a really good question as to whether or not a relationship can change to that extent. That'd be an interesting thing to discuss. I may actually even do an episode about that at one point, because people will often be, especially in these sort of drama-oriented relationships, will come back to it after a breakup or after a big talk, and all of a sudden everything's different. And, can that happen? I won't say that it can't, okay? However, usually by the time you create that much change, like there's too much history, there's too much, the negative patterns are too entrenched. So that kind of no matter how much you change, you're still going to end up getting pulled back into them and have the same problems again. Okay? So while you're in that situation, it may look like you're just, things are different, right? That's what you sort of hear that person in your life say, right? Oh, it's different this time because it's, she's had this big realization, and it's all going to be different from here on out. Okay. And I really, really, really caution you about using that logic. Okay? So if you hear yourself sort of saying that, really take some time and examine what really makes you think, other than like, I can feel it in my heart. Okay? What really makes you think that this is going to be different this time? Okay? What's really different? What's really shifted that you can feel so confidently that things are now going to be different? Okay, because that tends to be the addiction speaking. Okay, so really be aware of that. Okay, um, be aware of it even as far as your in your language. Okay, so so really highly be suspicious. I don't usually say that, but be be a little suspicious of that type of thinking. Why would it be different now? Why on earth would it? And be smart. Okay? Look back at the pattern. Okay, well, it's been this way, it's been X for a year. Why would it be Y now? Okay? So what's the solution? All right? How do you actually get out of this type of situation? Okay? The first part, again, you have to acknowledge that some part of you enjoys the drama. Okay, if you still think everything's happening to you, then you're just powerless. You can do absolutely nothing. Okay, so if you're willing to acknowledge that some part of you is really into that, then the next step is, okay, what part, right? How do I know what is attracting me to this type of relationship? Okay, so give us a try. I've got an exercise for you. Take a few minutes, go somewhere quiet, and close your eyes. Take several deep, slow breaths. And become aware of your body. Okay? From this place, let your mind drift back to those relationships. Okay, those connections that were really creating drama in your stress and conflict in your life. Okay? And I want you to get very, very honest with yourself. When you feel like you're clear and you're quiet inside, I want you to think to yourself, if you had to pick one thing that you enjoyed about that relationship, what would it be? Okay? If that's easy for you, pick one thing about the stress itself. What do you like about being in not just that particular relationship, but any relationship that has drama in it? What do you enjoy about that? Maybe you feel like you're fixing her problems. Maybe you're feeling like, as though you could help. You're saving her. You're rescuing her. Maybe a part of you, that can be really powerful. Feeling needed, feeling useful, right? Maybe you just like the excitement and you're afraid of getting bored if you have a normal relationship. Maybe you think that's normal and all relationships are just like that. Okay? This can go pretty far. Okay? And then while you're asking yourself these questions, really let the answers come to you. Okay? And write down whatever comes. Just write it down. It may sound totally stupid, not make any sense. Just write it down. Okay? Let yourself be open. Okay? Because the answer may surprise you. And that's really important, in all these types of work, and I do a lot of this type of thing because this type of self-reflection is where you find your answers. Okay? And then you've got the answers and you're done. So really let yourself sit openly, let the answer come to you, and then trust whatever you get. Boom, done. Okay, if more comes to you, great, write more. But don't filter it, okay? Don't go into shoulds. Um, don't sort of um, say, oh, well, that doesn't make it, that's not the right answer. You don't know what you're looking for, so don't worry about whether it's the right answer or not. You're not going to know, okay? I'm telling you right now, the way to find the right answer is to stay open and let yourself be surprised. That's how you know it's the one, okay? So give that a shot and see what comes out, and then really, really sit with and think about that answer that you got. Where is this a pattern in other areas of your life? Do you create drama for other people sometimes? Do you sort of, when you're feeling insecure or unhappy, do you sort of splash your issues around, on other people, or do you take responsibility? Do you sort of contain yourself when you're struggling? You can sort of know those chaotic people that kind of, I say splash the energy because energetically that's how it kind of works. There's like throwing energy everywhere, and it can be kind of exhausting to be around. So that's the first step. Okay, figure out what attracts you to this type of relationship, and sit with that. Okay, mostly that will move it from there. Okay, then let's talk real world. Let's talk physical world. Okay, you need space. Okay, it is way harder, and I mean way harder, to turn this kind of thing around when it's still right in your face. Okay, if you are in a relationship with a woman who is kind of crazy and you've been at it for a while, and you're in it, it's extremely difficult to get out. Okay? And it's even more difficult to change while you're still in the relationship. Okay? Because it's compelling. It's very, very strong. Drama is very powerful. It's like gossip. There's negative pleasure in it. It feels good. It doesn't make you feel good like doing something really good makes you feel good. If you teach something to a child, or you serve at a soup kitchen, or you climb out in nature or something, there's things that make you feel really good in a different way. But then there's negative pleasure, right? And that's extremely powerful. Okay, so know that. Again, this is about knowing what your situation is. If you don't know that you're addicted, then you're not going to be able to, you're going to be fighting uphill. There's sort of a Sisyphus element there of having to push the rock up the hill and then just letting the rock falls down. You do it again, and that's actually a great metaphor for these types of relationships. Sisyphus was a mortal in Greek mythology who got banished to in this sort of special state, by the gods, and his punishment was that he needed to push this huge rock up a hill, and then we got to the top, the rock would just roll back down again. He would do it again. Okay, and he had to do that for eternity. So moral of that story is, don't piss off the Greek gods, because they got some fucked up justice systems happening over there. But more relevantly, that's what these drama relationships are. You're always, always, always working uphill, and you're never getting anywhere. Okay, it's just repetitive. It's just a cycle. Okay? So in order to get out of this, you need to create space for yourself. If you can't break it off where you are, to say, you know what, I need... I can't do this anymore, then take some space. You know what, I'm going to be gone for 2 weeks. I don't know, figure it out. Stand up for yourself. What do you need? I'm going to move out for a month. Let's just take some space. And then space. No texts, no phone calls. Every time you get something, you get a little text reminder, then you're back in the pattern. Okay? In order to remove yourself from a pattern, you have to actually remove yourself from the pattern. Okay, you can't put yourself in the way of temptation and then expect yourself to do something that's monumentally difficult, like breaking off a relationship like this. Okay? So help yourself out. Take a baby step, but take a complete baby step. Like, I need a break for this long. Okay? And then take the break. And don't text, don't email, don't be in contact. Set that expectation ahead of time. And then take the space that you need to take stock, okay? And once you've got the distance from it, then you can start seeing it with some more perspective. Okay? So that's really important, okay? It's way harder to turn this kind of thing around when it's still right in your face, okay? Because it's exciting. There's life force and you're in the pattern and it works on some level. There's something about it that you like, again, or you wouldn't stay in it. Okay? So it does work on some level, and you can get addicted by that. You can be like, well, it's going to break it off, but at least I'm not alone. Okay. Yes. What's that worth to you? How much stress and irritation and ill health and upset and frustration in your life are you willing to trade for not being alone? And then maybe if you feel you might be up for it, okay. Maybe you can try and risk being alone to see if that's even as bad as you think it might be. Okay? So you need to remove yourself entirely from the situation, okay? It works on some level and you're used to it. That is extremely powerful. There's a lot of inertia in life a lot of times. And if you've been in a pattern for a long time, especially if this is not your first drama-filled relationship, then you'll be, plodding along. You'll just keep doing the same thing. Okay? So being used to it, it's familiar. Well, at least I know this. It's better than being alone because I don't know what that's going to be like. That's a huge motivator, people. It may not seem like it is, but it really is. You're, even if you're not happy, you know that you're safe. You know that you can at least survive this because you're surviving now, right? And so a lot of times people won't change because it's better to, it's like the devil you can see is better than the devil that you can't. Okay? And that's fine. Okay? But while you're in that, unfortunately, you're not going to be able to live life fully. You're not at 0%, but you're never going to get above 20 because you're holding yourself at 20. 20% of life is not a very fully lived life. Okay? So back to space, okay? Yes, you're in a pattern. It works on some level and you're used to it and that's powerful. But you cannot solve a drug addiction if all your friends are doing heroin on the weekends, right? It's already hard enough to get yourself off drugs. Putting yourself in the way of temptation it's going to be virtually impossible. It can be done. It's just way, way, way harder. All right? So there can be no, you need to remove yourself entirely from the situation. There can be no only one text a day or, oh, let's still be friends or I'll still, go to your mother's thing on whatever. If it needs to be broken off, it needs to be broken off. Okay? You need to recreate the experience of rehab. All right? That's why people go to a place for rehab. They turn their phones off. They're, they're not, living at home. They're not in these places where these patterns have taken root in their lives. And there's a reason for that. Okay, you need to be totally separated from it in order to get back on your feet. Okay, so be brutal. Okay, if she's texting you that she's in town and you're like, oh yeah, do you want to see me, honey? And you go, oh yeah, maybe. That's not a no. The no needs to be no, thank you, or whatever. Okay, so you need to recreate that sort of rehab for yourself. Because at that point, you can't trust your instincts or reactions anymore, okay? Because they're all coming from within the addiction. So really all you can, you need to rely on outside input and a complete cutoff. Okay? If your friends have always told you about how horrible she is and what a terrible effect she has on you, and your friends, you feel strongly have your best interests at heart, then, listen to that. Contemplate that. Think about that. Okay? And then give yourself the space to move on. So how do you know when you're out of a drama? Okay? From within it, it's really difficult to see. But the state that you get out of when you're out is awesome. Okay? I was never huge into drama myself, but, I engage in it from time to time and in a lot of other sort of self-destructive behaviors. And, I found myself unclear all the time. I was stressed all the time. I didn't really know. There was just all this really drama, I guess, going on in my system all the time. And it was exhausting and not productive. So when I dropped it, this incredible clarity came. It's like all the extra shit wasn't there. It's just the stuff that matters. There was a lot more space in my life. I'm actually just realizing that how true that is now. So clarity is a big one there. You'll experience a more positive state of mind. Huge. Okay, you won't have that, a storm cloud over your head all the time. You're free. There's a freedom in it that is absolutely spectacular. It's intoxicating. Okay, because you're not always being held down and wrapped up in this bullshit 24/7, right? So you're in a more positive state of mind. You don't always have the latest issue hanging over you. Okay? That's what I found with my friends who are in these drama-oriented relationships is that, have the latest issue. It's always this and that. It's always, oh, well, this time she said, could you believe she said that? And then she texted me this. And then 2 minutes later, her friend texted that, so I know that she was lying. And it's like you're like, oh, my God, stop. Stop. This is for children. Okay? There are more pressing things in life. If you don't have any, go find some. You can do a lot of good in this world. So you don't always have the latest issue hanging over you. You have less stress. Okay? You are lighter. You are more open, more relaxed, more present. Okay? These are the effects of really culling this shit from your life. And I'll say just one more thing, too, is that if you have friends who are in these types of relationships a lot, or in one of them, for a long time, you need to have a serious discussion with yourself about whether or not it's in your best interest to have those people around. It can be awful to cut friends off, and it's never a pleasant thing to do, and it's always terrible. And, this is your health and your life. How do you want to spend it? So maybe, you're listening to this whole thing, and you're like, oh, this is really great, but I have no problem with that in my life. Do you have friends who are? Do you feel like you're helping them when they're talking to you? Are you playing therapist? All these sorts of things are worth looking at. Who are you hanging out with? Who are your friends? And are they bringing this type of thing into your life? Okay, so some of that can sound a little bit harsh, and maybe it is, but it's it maybe needs to be. Drama is very, very sticky, very seductive, and people are in it all the damn time. Okay? So I hope this has been helpful. We covered a lot of material here. I hope it didn't go for too much for you. If you'd like to come onto Twitter and send me a note. If you have questions or feedback or comments, please feel free to reach out at Dominey Drew. And if you're interested more in delving into your issues on a deeper level, then check me out at domineydrew.com. And I'd be happy to, you can send me a message there, and I'll be happy to answer your questions. So thank you very much for joining me. I really hope this has been helpful for you. This is a very powerful area of life. It can be sticky and it can be frustrating, so stick with it and really stand up for yourself. Okay, this is a place where you can prioritize yourself, and that's appropriate and healthy. Okay? So all the very best to everyone out there. Thank you so much for joining me, and I'll see you next time. Bye-bye.